Good afternoon and welcome to our final presentation today. Today we're going to hear from this section, we're going to hear from Tamara Coffey. I'm always interested to listen to a speaker when there is a unique title, and the title of her presentation is Getting to the Last 100 Feet. Tamara brings 20 plus years of public safety technology experience. The range of products includes biometrics such as live scan fingerprint systems, facial recognition, voice biometrics, rapid DNA technology. She has worked with several state, local, tribal, and federal agencies, college campuses, officers. Her current role is working with numerous fire departments, police departments, and EMS as it relates to provide the proper geocode information for arriving quickly and saving time and possibly lives. So, Tamara, it is great to have you here. I will turn off my mic and we are good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure I'm all set up here. Good. Okay, so I want to thank everyone here at the National School Safety Conference for letting us speak, for letting 100 Feet be a part of this group and this conference, and I greatly appreciate that. So I'm just going to get right on to it here. 100 Feet. 100 Feet is headquartered in Palo Alto, California, and we actually work in a couple different industries. I am the Government Relations and Emergency Services Director, and as Gary mentioned, I work with many agencies across the country, but we also work a lot with delivery, logistics, and even some real estate folks. And as we get into what it is that we do, you'll kind of see how it correlates across all of these industries. Our two co-founders came together basically with this common goal of being able to provide accurate arrival information for first responders down to the last 100 feet. So let me see, I think I have, here we go. So what is it that we do? We are solving critical problems for first responders to be able to show up at the last 100 feet. And what we do is we optimize this information. I know that this is not a very good picture, but as we go through some of the other images, you'll get a better understanding. Because this audience is more school campuses or college campuses related, I want to talk about what we are able to do by providing this accurate location information to help shorten arrival time and being able to save some critical minutes, up to almost 40% of arrival time. It's really important that if there is a situation at any particular school or multi-unit building structure, that first responders are able to show up and show up quickly and precisely. We're able to optimize our arrival time for first responders, whether it's firefighters, paramedics, and police, by providing this detailed information so they don't just show up at an address or a building or a school location or campus location, but they're actually able to get very detailed information like, where is the door? Where are the stairs? Where is that classroom, or where is that dorm room, for instance? In this particular audience, I came up with some potential use cases for this audience, and I hope that towards the end of the presentation that I'm able to discuss with you on really how it relates to SROs or public safety as it goes to different campuses. There's so many different ways that it can help, not just with the resource officers at an elementary or high school or middle school, or campus public safety officers on a college campus, but it's also for those local agencies that are the ones that get called to a particular location if there's a medical emergency or some other like violent situation, which I hope not. So on this slide, this kind of shows a little bit, I hope that you can see it. It shows as if you have the application on a cell phone or a device, this is how our data is provided. We're a data company and we're able to interface with many solutions. And so you can have our information on a cell phone, on a tablet, And as we get through in more detail, I'll be able to provide a little bit more information. But just for a quick glance, if you see right here, this, for example, this is an apartment building, but you can envision if it was a school, if you're an SRO or campus personnel, and there's a situation you need to call an ambulance, for example, you'll be able to pull this up on your cell phone and be able to show that paramedic quickly, hey, here's the front door here, maybe meet them out in the parking lot. And then maybe the room number is down the hall to the left, and you'll be able to quickly guide a paramedic, quickly guide a police officer to where a particular situation is occurring. In this example over here, you'll be able to see that maybe there's a small fire, maybe down on a baseball field, for example. You can guide the firefighters and pull this up, and they'll be able to quickly see where the nearest hydrant is. Just a couple quick examples. On the next slide here, I want to just quickly tell you how it can work. Like I mentioned, we do a lot of data collection, data gathering. So 100 feet is actually about 2 years old, and we are up in the Palo Alto area, as I mentioned. So in that 2.5 years, for example, as it relates to the public safety industry, we started gathering information with apartment complexes, apartment units. So, and then from there, we've started with college campuses, and then schools and shopping malls, for example, moving on to hospitals and business office complexes. There's so many multi-unit structures throughout the country that we have to continuously add and provide under our data coverage. So in this particular example, say for instance, you can have our data or be able to use our data simply via our app on a cell phone. That's a simple solution. A lot of delivery drivers use it that way. In the first responder, emergency public safety kind of arena, what we have been doing is not only have our proprietary data, but we're also able to use the API interface. We have very simple API interfaces, and we have interfaced with several incident response solutions. We also have emergency alert systems that we've responded to. Maybe in a firehouse, it'll pop up on a monitor in the firehouse before those firefighters or paramedics run out to the trucks and start, heading out to the emergency. Say it's a college dorm or a schoolyard, they'll be able to see the building up on the map. And then with that detailed information, maybe it's unit 203, it'll pop up on the map, and they'll be able to kind of get a visual before they jump in the truck. And then when they get on scene with that incident response system on their tablet, they'll be able to guide themselves to the fire hydrants if it's a fire, guide themselves into the door down the hall if it's a medical emergency. The other thing that we're also able to do that makes us very, we do a lot of kind of partnerships with many agencies across the country, is we take their paper maps. So in a scenario, say a firefighter scenario, a lot of fire trucks or a lot of fire departments actually still have these paper binders that have maps of multi-unit structures, all the buildings throughout their city or county jurisdiction. And we take those maps and we're able to scan them and put them through this QA kind of quality assurance team. We have several people on a QA team, and we're able to make sure that down to the latitude and longitude and all the geocoding involved, that we're able to really get that precise, detailed information from doors to stairwells to elevators, anything that we can help with that first responder industry to get those people there quickly, safely, and just make sure that that emergency situation is taken care of. So we're able to provide that digitized data by scanning and mapping either through our own app. Oh, and by the way, we're also ISRI partners, and this really goes a long way in the GIS kind of mapping scenario. So that's, I like to make sure that folks, whether with agencies and maybe schools, a lot of schools, and have those SROs on site that are part of that local law enforcement or local public safety agency, to make sure that they are aware that we are ISRI partner, which makes it easier to get our data onto your systems. Besides digitizing hard copy or paper maps, we have also developed earlier this year what I call Map Maker. That's the name of the application. And we're actually providing it to different fire departments across the country, really at no charge. Excuse me. You're probably saying, what do you mean no charge? So because of all this, everything going on, right? We have a COVID pandemic, a lot of wildfires across the country, especially here in California where we are located. We kind of wanted to do something, give back. And so we're providing this, what we call Map Maker application tool. And it really allows the end user or the firefighters or the city planning people or what have you, the capability of having this quick, easy to use Map Maker ability. And you can go out to any structure and kind of map it in about 15 minutes. Because 100 Feet's Map Maker is a GIS hyper-local macro, say that all in one breath, a hyper-local macro tagging that can record, store, and be shared through the spatial data portal. This is necessary for all efficient operations by any agency or by department. So we're really proud of being able to provide this application. And at any time, if somebody's on the call that would like more information, it just takes about a 30-minute kind of download the app and a quick training session. We'll be more than happy to help you. On this, you're probably looking at, hey, what's this map? This is an actual paper map that was provided to us by a community college. It is only the first floor, but the second and third floor look the same. And I wanted to show this to you so you could see really a lot of the paper maps that are still being used throughout a lot of facilities. Coastline College down in Orange County, and I use that example because Coastline College in Orange County was one of our first colleges per se that we mapped out. We've done a lot of high schools and elementary schools, but this was one of our first colleges that we mapped out last year. And it's important to see how simplistic the paper maps are. But when you take this information 3 stores up, first, second, and third floor, you're going to see that it's all digitized. This is a little bit turned, but you can see the long area of the building and then the little short, I call it the L shape of the building. And then it gets digitized, and that data is then added into all the information that we're able to provide you, again, whether on any device, cell phone, or tablet. Now, the other thing as it relates to this particular image, this is very small, I'm not sure if you could see, but this is the parking lot to this facility. So if this was a high school, this is a community college, something of this nature is real important. So you know where the entrance is. You can see this is the main entrance. Here's a door here. If you go back up to the map, you can see that the stairs are here, and it's also detailed where there's an elevator and then the different classrooms. The one thing about this particular campus right here is it came into play with us as we were working with the director of public safety on this campus. He was actually a retired SWAT officer from Orange County Sheriff's Department. So what was really important as we mapped this information out for them was not only for their director or their public safety folks that were on campus to have the application on their cell phone, because they're actually there every day, right? So they know where the rooms are. But for this particular campus right here, they have 3 campuses in one administrative building. But for Newport Beach campus, they actually catered to many physically challenged students. So you might have a lot of college students either in a wheelchair or a walker, or possibly maybe having to carry an oxygen tank, what have you. So with this particular location, it was important that their public safety officers, whoever were on shift, they would have the application on their cell phone. Maybe one of the students' walker tripped coming out of the elevator and maybe they fell down. They would immediately have to call the paramedic, right? So they could meet the paramedics down out into the parking lot and flip up the phone and say, look, they're up the stairs in room 203 or room 304 or something of that nature, and really help the paramedics kind of guide themselves there quickly, get the student up and transport them. So that's one incident. Another incident or another situation, this is also used for active shooter training as it relates to the SWAT team in Orange County. So even though the director of public safety was retired from the sheriff's department, he took the position and it was able to allow a location for active shooter training. So again, if something were to happen at any school, college campus, any building around, and you have a situation where you have an officer or a public safety person on location and they have this application, they're able to share if a situation occurs and those local agencies come, they're able to share the information and really guide those folks on, show them where the rooms are and kind of more of the facility, because you know, these local agencies that arrive for situations, they're not at this building every single day. And I do hope that does make some sense. So on this slide, this is a quick little kind of video or a demo video that will show, and I hope it plays. It's not playing. Okay. So imagine, if you will.
You might have to launch actual PowerPoint slide, because what you've done is you've embedded in there and you're just kind of showing it in the work mode. So see if you can launch it and show it from there.
So I sent the video. I'll make sure that Sabella has the video for that. I apologize. Okay. If you want to bear with me for a moment, I will try to pull up a different part of the video if you can see my screen, but I don't want to hold everybody up. I'll get that video out for everybody on the launch or on the Google Drive that we have set up. Does that make sense? And it's very, very, go ahead, Gary.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I apologize. We'll make sure that they get to see that.
I know. I was so good too. Just let everybody know. I practiced and I made sure that it worked on what I uploaded, but c'est la vie. So as we went through some of those use cases, again, that's kind of how I was going to close this out. The different use cases for the actual application. You have the map maker application that can help map out any particular structures on your campus, on your school property. And then I think if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to take those now. And I'm going to ensure that I get that video linked up there, because I really thought I had it set up.
Well, I promise you this: tomorrow, I will make sure that it is the first thing we show, so people can really see that. So if Sabella can get that to me, and we're gonna have a team meeting at the end. The one thing I want to kind of someone's already asked a question. So what is the cost? Is the first question I have.
Okay. So the cost comes, so the MSRP price, let's just say, for instance, there's, depending on the amount of users, it's about $100 per device for a year. So For example, we're actually talking with a couple police departments. I'm just going to throw that out there as an example. We have a lot of, in this time, there's a lot of danger for all of us, but there's a couple apartment complexes in a couple different states where you have patrol officers, and a lot of them are actually solo and maybe are on shift alone, and they get a call out, say, to a large apartment complex, and they actually end up getting ambushed in the middle of a courtyard while they're looking for this building or apartment unit. So we have a couple beta sites going on, but we have pulled that price together, and it's about $100 per device. And so what that means is per cell phone, per tablet, per MDT, and it goes from like one user up to 1,000 users, and then you might get a 10% discount off there. But from 1 to 1,000 users, $100 per device per year, kind of ballpark.
Okay.
Yep.
One of the things that you talked about, I work with a community where there are 17 school buildings in one fire jurisdiction, and you're absolutely correct about the paper maps in the 3-ring binders. And when I first became a police officer, back when Matt Dillon was still in Gunsmoke, we carried clipboards, and in our clipboards we carried maps, and it got to the point you needed a bigger clipboard because you had so many maps.
Yes.
And now with we fix it, so that they could put our maps on their MDTs, but they're not interactive. They're static. But it was, there is that technology for first responders, and probably not the first or second unit will pull up those maps like in an active shooter, but the third one's probably starting to set up a command post. Yes. And now we're going to need to have access to all of that. So a product like yours can, speed the process. In Ohio, and I keep saying that, but that's where I live, all schools have to upload their maps into the state system, and then we use it's called OLEG, the Ohio Law Enforcement Gateway. That's how you can access those maps, but it's cumbersome.
Yes.
Because you need to know all these passwords. So if I can have direct access without having to go through that, I think that's going to help our first responders when they get on the scene, when they set up the incident command system, and now that they're starting to do rescue task force, et cetera.
Absolutely. And to expand on that, Gary, as you mentioned, so for example, that location where you have 17 buildings on one school property, or the 17 schools throughout the city, not all, you might have to get those maps. That school district may have to be responsible for doing the maps themselves. And what we have come to find from working with some of these fire department folks is that you have the fire departments that might pull a map. You get a call out, you put a fire out, say at a shopping mall, and one of the firefighters may notice, oh my goodness, they built a whole remodeled and added another wing to this store. We don't have that on a map. So then they have to walk into the mall and figure out where to get that new map. And not the city or the fire department or the school or the school district folks in this particular scenario, so don't always communicate or update everybody's information. And that's almost one of the reasons why we came out with that map maker application, which will be of value. If maybe you don't want to do all the paper maps or send us the paper maps, but you can task maybe an intern or work with us and tell us where you are, and we'll help get some of those maps done for you.
That is excellent, because there are when the laws changed in the state of Ohio, one of the struggles that schools had was, how do we get these maps? Right. A building that was built in 1927 sometimes it's hard to be able to get those kind of maps. So anyways, I have no more questions.
Okay.
I'm going to let you go. We have your contact information.
Yes.
Sabella, my team and we're going to have a meeting on Zoom as soon as this ends, and I'll make sure that I get that video, and it'll be the first thing we play tomorrow morning when we start.
Okay,
But
perfect.
I thank you for being here, and I
Of
thank you for
course.
your sponsorship.
Of course. Thank you so much. You all have a great day. You have my contact information. If you need anything, let me know.
All right. Okay, so I just got a question from someone else. SROs are never in their office. My question is, who's watching the cameras and walking the school hallways? That's a great question, Anthony. And the sad thing is, in most school districts in Ohio, very few um, very few can afford to have someone monitoring cameras like they had, for example, at Parkland. Unfortunately, most of the time they're used for forensic versus stopping things. Monitors are placed in a a good area where multiple people can see them. But if you have that positive school climate and you've got people, teachers in the halls and administrators where they're supposed to be, you don't need an SRO to necessarily walk the halls and make sure doors are locked. I think that's kind of a waste of the skill set that an SRO has. And we could have custodians, as they're sweeping the floors, looking in the halls. So that's a good question and something we should get into tomorrow. So let me kind of bring you up to speed for tomorrow. We've already had our first COVID cancellation, unfortunately, and so we are going to pivot. Tomorrow's schedule, we start at 10:45, and at 11 o'clock we were supposed to have vaping in our schools and community, and unfortunately our presenter cannot be here. So what's going to happen tomorrow? I am going to do a presentation that is kind of a train the trainer, and this train the trainer will be kind of for public information officers, but it's also good for you to know. We are going to simulate a shooting in a parking lot that doesn't involve students or staff as victims. And what we're going to do is I'm going to run this exercise. I'm going to ask you to use the question button so that you can respond to some of the questions and thoughts that are going on. But then since we give you all of the presentations, you could go back and do that same type of training with your school or organization. So I know it's last minute. I know it's a change, but that's sometimes what happens in a world of COVID-19. So I want to thank you all for attending today. I'd like to thank our sponsor, The Last 100 Feet. And if there are no more questions, you guys have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you tomorrow. And my team in the Philippines, as soon as we all log off, let's jump on Zoom so that you guys can get to bed.